What's up, guys? Welcome to Operation B, the podcast. I am your host, Jamie Thurber, and I am here to take you on a journey of deepening, of expansion, of understanding more about who you are and why you're here and how to operate in an optimal way that allows you to do what you want to do, feel how you want to feel, take care of yourself truly, and support everything that your heart desires. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Operation B. Today we're in studio joined by Annie Yatch. She runs a very cool and I feel like it's a unique approach to coaching and leadership. And she runs a business doing that, helping lots of people. I'm going to read a little bio about you, if that's okay.
Sexy. Let's do
right?
it.
It's a little brief, but I thought that it was really interesting and it kind of gives the audience. I just started doing guests recently, like within this year. And so I had 80 episodes that were just solo. So I'm kind of still easing everybody
This is
in.
so much more fun. Let's have some fun. I love it.
So I'm easing people into the guest life.
Okay.
So after building 3 7-figure businesses, which there's that and all by itself is amazing, with your former husband, who was a Navy SEAL.
Great.
When the only reason I even mention that is because I know it impacts a lot of the business marketing that you do or coaching that you do. He was your business partner, that you and your team at Northstar Leadership now focus on coaching and training on trauma freedom for entrepreneurs, which is mind-blowing to me. I'm very excited. Feedback systems and accountability, which is a massive part of what I teach too. And it's so hard to get people to realize. And that
for you.
Yeah. And it creates the most sustainable fulfillment and success for entrepreneurs and their teams. You're also a mother of 2.
Yes,
is that right?
2 little boys.
Two little boys, and you live in Park City, Utah, which I love. One of my friends, Catherine, lived there for a long time.
Come visit anytime.
I love it there. It is beautiful. Well, I'm excited, and just that, the reason I wanted to say those things is because my team of humans that listen to this will understand just based off of that why I wanted you to come in and talk. Because sometimes I'm like, see, I'm not the only one who's saying this.
You're definitely not the only one, but there aren't many of us.
There aren't, especially women, honestly. The thing I find the most especially the online coaching space is that there's a lot of the women who are coaching are only coaching women.
That is what I've seen too. I have about a 70-30 split. 70% are male, high-level entrepreneurs, influencers, top VIPs, and then you've got these amazing women who are a little bit more in their masculine, but are like, I want to shift. I want to be more my feminine. I want this to be easier.
Yeah.
I don't want to just be like molding into what these men want me to be. And how do I maintain who I really am as I run my businesses?
That's huge. So for a long time, I was like 80-20 men, heavy on the men's side. And then what I've found is as I've had more female clients, they have very similar traits to me, as far as being hyper productive and vigilant and all these other things. And what they want to do is figure out how to be able to still run life that way and still be seen as a human. Right. That tends to be the biggest thing, not even just a woman, just as a human being, because I feel like a lot of times when women step into those roles, we get almost robotic about it. And for a lot of reasons, right? The world kind of forces us to do that at some point. True. And so they tend to find their way to me when they're like, okay, I know there has to be a way for me to also enjoy my life.
There has to be a better way, right? Oh, I love that. I'm so thankful that you exist, because it feels a little lonely out there sometimes when you've got all this stuff going on and you're trying to make all these things work and you've got clients, you got all this. And I just feel like as women, we need to collaborate more together, because there's so much wisdom that I don't know about you, but I never had somebody who's older than me as a woman who really mentored me. And so that's been one of my driving forces. I'm like, we need to mentor these young women. They need to have support in that regard. And we have to collaborate more, because when women make more money, we impact a whole community. When men make more money, they tend to buy gadgets or toys or cars or whatever it is. And I'm just like, let's build the community.
Yes.
So I think you and I are probably in the same vein there.
I love it. And that's huge. I think that I remember, gosh, it's been many years ago at this point, but you may be familiar with these 2 women, but I took a class that they both taught. It was like a very brief coaching class about wealth, women and wealth. And it was Melanie, oh my goodness, what is her last name? Lane? Anyway, and Amanda Francis. Okay. And both of them are running multiple 7-figure coaching companies and built it out of their knowledge, which I love. And so they were talking a lot about women and wealth. And that was one of the big topics. And I had never really thought about it that way before. about wealth management, because everybody talks about getting money, right?
True,
And then you have
true.
to know what to do with it.
True.
But the part of the heart that goes into it that women use money for, and how much that changes the entire playing field for the country, the world, and
True.
everybody. It's very beautiful.
It's
so
so beautiful. It's
I
my
love
favorite
that.
thing about working with women.
I love that. That's very cool. So I do have a couple of things that I pulled out that I think are interesting, because they are things that if someone asked me to define them, I probably wouldn't have a definition.
Okay.
So when you say trauma freedom for entrepreneurs, I'd love for you to explain what that means.
So what I realized, and this was back probably 5 to 7 years ago, that you can teach a team how to be high performers. You can teach them leadership skills. You can, teach all these new systems and processes. But if you don't go to the root pattern that holds that person back in their behavior, in their mind, in their language even, you don't have an opportunity to really change the game for them, because they'll keep hitting off of that ceiling. And it's usually a revenue ceiling and a behavior ceiling. And so once I started to realize I really can't teach leadership until I teach people how to identify their subconscious patterning. Once you teach the subconscious patterning and the person actually sees, oh my gosh, I've been doing this to myself over and over and over again in my relationships, in my business practices, in my friendships.
Yeah.
Once they see that pattern, then for the first time, they feel like there's hope that life can actually change. So for me, it hurts my heart when you watch people over and over again play out the same pattern.
Yeah.
Instead of like interrupting that pattern to say, wait a second, do you realize you're even doing this? Because most of us have no idea we're doing it. Everyone around us knows exactly what's happening. And so that becomes difficult when everybody sees something that you can't. And I never want someone to be in that position. So that's why
huge.
I really got into the trauma patterning and looking at, how do we get entrepreneurs out of their own way and create more freedom?
Oh, yeah.
Because that entrepreneurship journey is hard enough. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we've all seen the meme, right? This is being an entrepreneur. And I think something I talk a lot about with a couple of my people that coach me and that are my confidants, like my little inner circle, is we talk a lot about pop psychology in social media and how aggravating it can be. And how it takes things like the word trauma or triggers and it just flips them on their head and turns into this thing that then people are poking fun at, because people aren't actually understanding what it really is.
True.
And how it actually shows up in your body every single time. I point that out to people often because I've had to learn it for myself. With my own health journey, mainly was like, because it was a physical thing, so it was easier for me to fully comprehend. I was like, oh, I do feel that exact same way physically. It's usually, this is a funny one, it'll be like multiple days before I'm supposed to go to an event that's at a time that typically I don't feel well. Like in the evenings, I don't normally feel very well. Or if I'm supposed to go someplace overnight, or like, because traveling used to be a huge thing. And I've realized, well, that is definitely, my whole system is like, oh God,
she's
please
about to do this.
Right. This is going to be terrible. And so I now prep for it and I understand and give myself space and deal with, but I approach that differently instead of being like, what the hell is wrong with me? Instead, I'm like, oh, I understand.
Will always tell you.
Yeah, I understand why you're scared. That sucked. And I did it to you a lot. A lot. So I understand.
To ourselves a lot that we don't even know. We don't even know how much we're hurting ourselves sometimes.
I know. So I can only imagine just being able to, because I know people hire coaches, especially leadership or business coaches, and often they come in and they expect you to sit down with them the first day and give them this like master plan on how to make X amount of dollars.
Right.
Or optimize their time more, or which we do all of that.
Or teach them how to manage their people better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. And then it's the patterns. It really is. And the tricky part that I run into a lot, I think, is getting people to recognize that it is, without it blaming on them, but it's really a them thing that they have to sort out if they ever want this to go beyond what it is. So how cool is it that you've created this space to be like, okay, I see it. Now let's deal with that. And people know that coming to you, that you're going to get them past it. It's huge.
And I think it helps to have, like, what I do in every first session with everyone is I sit them down. I'm like, listen, we're going to talk about what your greatest superpower is and what your greatest kryptonite is. We're going to figure out how you can finally see it. And so I walk them through it, but they're the ones that sort of see it and they're like, oh my God, I've been doing this my whole life. And when that hits, it's almost as though for the first time in their whole life, they can actually make a sustainable change. Now, we haven't made the change yet, right? We're just bringing it to the conscious awareness. Sure. But for the first time, there's a chance, because before this, it's been lost in the 11 million data points of their subconscious that they can't even access.
Yeah.
So as you know, right, like there's nothing better than watching someone have a breakthrough. Like Everyone always says, like, how do you keep doing this? How do you have so much energy for it? I'm like, well, there's nothing better than watching a breakthrough happen.
Yeah.
Because all that hope, all that relief, all that fulfillment, right? To have someone identify, oh, my trauma pattern, once I know it, is actually the indicator of what my purpose is and my path is and what I'm here to teach humanity. That in of itself is fulfilling for someone to finally know.
Absolutely. It's huge. And it's one of those things that sometimes, just like they always talk about, you can't force someone to drink. You can show them the water, but you can't force them to drink. No. It's one of the hardest things as a coach.
It is the worst.
Yes. You're like, but here's all the reasons and all the things.
Here's your future potential.
Right. And until they're ready, and that's the hardest part. But I feel like when you can show what you have and what you've created as a process allows you to show it to them in a way that I'm sure there are still people that aren't ready to see it.
True.
But you're giving it to them in a way that it's like, and this is why this is more difficult, or why this is where you've hit the ceiling.
Correct.
Kind of thing. So I love that. I was reading about your company over this week and thinking, what a cool, because I knew what it was called, but I didn't exactly understand why until I started reading some of your pages, and I'm like, I see.
Now it makes sense.
And the compass, and it makes a lot of sense. So Northstar is helping people figure out their path, which is huge.
And I think it's not even like we all need a Northstar, but I don't think many of us live in our true identity. And that's what I've come to realize is we're playing an identity that's an identity from when we were 7 years old. And that subconscious is driving every action, every behavior. It's even running our business. And so for me, I'm like, how many people want to get the 7-year-old out of the driver's seat so that the adult self who's learned all the wisdom, has all the lessons, can actually drive their business? Because it's a very different experience, the 7-year-old running your business versus the adult developed self.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my mission. I'm like, let's get the 7-year-old out of the driver's seat. Let's get that adult self working with the 7-year-old. Everybody's happy. There's harmony. And now we can actually break through that ceiling and go as high as we want to go on revenue.
I remember for the first time hearing about this concept and recognizing, it was actually, do you know who Elizabeth Gilbert? She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And she also has a book called Big Magic. And I reference it a lot because it's one of those, like, I can turn it on audio and it feels like I'm having a conversation with a friend. And there's something she talks about in there about your fear. And she was like, it's not going to go anywhere, but you can't let it drive. Just put it in the back seat. You don't even have to let it change the radio station if you don't want. And so that's how I look at the different parts of me. I do a lot of IFS work with my coach. And so as you were saying that, I'm like, yep, people can call whatever they want. It's all a very similar concept. So talking about the person now versus the version of you that was created by the trauma moment.
Yeah. And almost everything, when you think about it, almost everything is linked back to some interaction you have with your parents, because the parental element, really, you either collude or you rebel against, right? And so a lot of people think they're rebelling against, but they're actually colluding with deep subconscious patterns that their mother had or their father had. And they're actually listening and hearing their mother or their father's voice in their head instead of their own voice. So when I talk about true identity, I'm like, we have to make it your identity.
Yeah.
Not the identity of the parents that you pulled it from, or even from the traumatic situation that you went through. So I'm just so thankful there are other women out there doing this kind of work, because it is so life-changing for everybody.
Absolutely. I think that for me, I find in my own experience and a lot of people's, I feel like money is one of the top ones that people pull from their parents, whether they realize it or not. My brother and I had this conversation. I have a very blue-collar, hardworking family. My dad worked very, very hard for us to have what we had, and it's amazing. Like he sacrificed his body, in the process. And my brother went to school and double majored in engineering, and he had this very specific plan. While I was like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. I'm just going to do stuff and things. And luckily I took a business path and I've been able to use that wherever I've decided to go. But
very smart,
I didn't even know it at the time. It was just kind of like, I guess I need to do something. But with that, we talked probably in our mid-20s. I'd say we had our first conversation about how much we had to reset our identity with money and how hard it was. Him and my sister-in-law went through the Dave Ramsey process, and right after they got married, and paid off all their things besides their house and like all these things to set them up for the future they wanted. I've told people that story a lot. I'm like, my brother and I are very different in the way that we do life. We have those similar morals from our family, but we both took this path of going, wait a minute, that is not the way to look at money. And our parents just didn't know any better. But so many people don't realize that connection, whether it's a good one or a bad one, where it comes from.
That's true. I'm so thankful for that. It's internal family systems work. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So thankful. That's so beautiful. And it helps so many people. Because
what
I think is interesting is when you watch someone and you start coaching them and you see that they're playing out their entire relationship with their dad with their boss in business.
Yeah.
And the second they see it, they can't unsee it.
Right.
So I'm like, well, now that you see it, what are we going to do about this? Right. Or the entrepreneur who's running the company who is playing the role of father when he should be playing the role of business.
Yeah.
Right. So there are so many disconnections here because everybody has a different language. Everybody has a different definition. That's why there's so much communication breakdown. And I'm sure you've probably coached on this too in leadership. Right?
Yes.
I mean, we've got different definitions of how do you follow, how do you lead, how do you manage?
Right.
And all the books are like, no, we want you to be a leader. I'm going to get in the trenches with you. We're going to lead together. I'm like, no, you actually want to be the absolute best manager of your team because if you're being a follower, you're taking action. If you're being a leader, you're evoking action.
Yeah.
If you're being the manager, you're setting the desired end state for where everybody gets to go and making sure all the resources exist and there's a safety net in case.
That right there, if somebody could just package that up and really fully understand just that part that you just said and practice it, yes. Because I find, so I've always been in a nurturing mother role. My mom is that way. I am very aware of it at this point, and I have to be careful because that is the natural way that I'll show up.
Mechanism,
right? Yeah. And what I used to do then was be very cold about the way I managed because it was like it was the only way I could figure out to not then be enabling everyone. Okay. So that was younger 20s running a company and being able to change that around. But even here doing what I'm doing with Punchline, like I have to be very specific because I did come in a kind of a fix things kind of capacity. And I don't want that to be my relationship with the people that I'm working with. It's not good for me. It's definitely not going to help them. And so I am very mindful of it, but it's so easy for that to happen.
Well, but you're so like at your heart level, you're not robotic at all, right? You have so much love to give, so much nurture.
Yeah.
But the robotic is probably something to do with like, okay, I got to get all this done. How am I going to get this done? And I have to move all these different things. So makes sense.
And I think there were times that two things would play into it for me. One was health related. Like I couldn't control what was going on in my body, so I could control how much I was getting done.
Yep. I love that.
And so that's what I did instead. And also in some of the positions I was put in, I didn't have people to help. Like I had to sort out how to make this company function without the funds most of the time. Like I had a boss who did not or wasn't willing to put money towards the things he needed to. Right. So I just had to figure out how to make it work. And in those cases, all of these businesses were all male dominated, which is another thing we have.
To make it work too. That's completely the male tendency, right? Like I have to fix all these problems. I have to solve everything. So I'm a very good problem solver, but then you're not in your feminine.
Yep. So it's interesting. So my partner and I, we're getting married next November. We've been together. Thank you. We've been together for 14 years almost. He is extremely like the true definition of a masculine man, genuinely. And you know it because he would never call himself that. That's how you know it's true. How you know. He would never say it. But we worked that out because there was a time early in our relationship where I remember I was holding like a bunch of feelings in it about something and I ended up like them at him and he was like, whoa, okay, I didn't even know you cared about those things. That was a pivotal moment. I mean, I was 24 though. So a lot of people don't have those kinds of conversations until they're in their 40s or ever even.
Correct.
So I was able to notice that and go, oh my gosh, you're right. Like I'm not telling you my feelings. No wonder I'm feeling crazy because it's all living in here. But I know
that's always the issue, right?
Yeah.
We're not sharing our feelings. And think about men and women. Yeah. Neither one of us spend enough time expressing and validating and talking things through. I mean, the number of real conversations I wish more couples had, but they don't even have in their 40s. Yeah. It's shocking. And then we wonder why the nuclear family is falling apart because we've all been taught to repress all of our feelings and to not ask for help. When really the best way to give somebody purpose is to ask for help and allow them to give to you.
Yeah.
So I had to change my whole conversation in my head about how do I ask for help? How do I make this
Yes.
But if you're giving the other person purpose, heck yeah, I'll ask for help all day long because then we're both winning. So.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It is such a this is what I tell people a lot. I'm like, being a human being is complex.
Very.
And somehow when we're growing up, the world likes to tell us that it's just like this easy peasy situation and no one tells you the complexities of it. And so many people like talk about not only the family dynamic falling apart, the idea of that, but also just individuals, the rise of people lacking confidence, the rise in anxiety, the rise in depression. Like there's plenty of things that are feeding into that. But a huge piece is that everyone's walking around thinking other people are doing things intentionally to hurt them but they've never expressed what they needed or that it hurt them. And the other person's doing the same thing. So we're all just walking around in this fake little life that no one even knows is happening. It's like wild when you start to notice. I'm like, oh, this makes me sad for everyone.
I wonder though sometimes how when like I always think of it like a video game when some like non-player character walks in and I'm like, I wonder why this person's here. And then you see them do something, you're like, oh, that's an earlier version of me. You know what I mean? Or you see somebody come in and you're like, that person just walked right by. I guess we don't have any karma. We don't have anything to work on. This is so interesting.
It is like Sims.
Yes. Because you only have interaction with someone, I find, if there is some like karmic debt that needs to be paid or a karmic lesson that has to be learned, even attraction when you're dating. I always say to myself, I'm like, if there's massive attraction there, I probably need to run the other way because that is a karmic connection, like a major lesson I have to learn. It's not necessarily chemistry.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. I learned that. Went through that.
To learn.
I've gone through that a time or two.
Yeah. Haven't we all?
Yes. So there's a piece of this that you say on your site in a couple of posts that is huge for me. And I feel like it's one of those things that I could say 1,000 more times, but people still don't fully grasp how big of a deal it is. And it's to tell the truth and to find the truth, and how much that not only does it change the game, but the freedom and the weight that gets lifted when you do.
Because you don't have to worry about anything else you've ever said in the past.
Right.
And when I tell people is I'm like, if you want to find your trauma pattern, the quickest way, because not everybody can afford to go to a therapist or hire a coach, whatever it may be, you look at the areas of your life where you are suffering. If there is suffering in any area of your life, in that area, there's a lie that your subconscious believes is true. You have to identify the lie that you're telling. And if you can identify that lie and then reframe it to what do I really want to be true instead, you are on your path to healing. And this is so simple, but so elegant. So many people hear me say it and they're like, well, I don't use that question. I'm like, this is the only question that matters. What do I want to be true? Because if at any moment, if you're feeling triggered, if you're feeling angry, you can be like, wait a second, what do I want to be true in this moment? Not what I'm thinking. So what I'm thinking then is the lie. And what is true, if I step into it, now I have completely different behavior, completely different way of thinking, completely different emotional state. And now you've moved from the old reality, which nobody wants to be in, progress through it, to the new reality that you are actively creating on your own. There's ownership, there's accountability in that reality.
Yeah.
So I use that a lot because I'm like, it's what do I want to be true? And what if this was easy? Because anywhere it's not, that's where the lie sits.
Yeah. And imagine,
completely true.
And imagine trying to find, that's the reason I think some people have a hard time with accountability.
True.
Is because you're trying to, basically there's parts of you that are pretending like that thing, you didn't even say that thing or say you were going to do that thing because it's uncomfortable and they don't know how they'd actually do it anyway. So they can't hold themselves accountable to follow through it. It just becomes this big muck of, a tangled yarn. And I'm just like, oh, it's so sad. And it's hard because you can't help everyone. But I do think that having these kinds of conversations and putting ourselves in these positions, what I always tell people is that ripple effect is the best thing we can do.
The best thing, because your one little moment with someone is going to teach them or be a ripple to somebody else. That's why I tell everyone, I'm like, you might get an hour with me, you might get 12 months with me, but whoever has these little moments, you're still going to learn something. There's still going to be a breakthrough. And I don't care. I don't care if someone takes a little bit of something or they take and do 12 months of this work. Every conversation has the ability to change the ripple and to change your trajectory.
Yeah, I love it. Something you said earlier triggered a thought, not a bad one, a good one for me that I wanted to share, is about management. And it's in anywhere in our lives, but a lot of we're more taught that it's the common to jump down in, like you said, into the trenches. So that's why I have a lighthouse tattooed on my arm. It's a reminder.
I always say, be the lighthouse. Be the lighthouse.
Yes, like that. And it's hard, especially when you first grasp the concept. But when you start, once you, just like you said before, once you know, you don't unknow that. And so when you realize I'm not helping that person by swimming around and almost drowning myself and getting beaten up by the waves and all this stuff, when you can choose to be firm, I mean, that's one of the hardest things you can do.
I agree.
There's not the self-sabotage aspect to it. There's not like a martyrdom aspect to it. So it's a powerful decision to make. And actually, an old mentor of mine had one on his arm, and he got the idea from his mentor who had it. And then there was a whole group of us at one point that had like a similar tattoos.
I love it.
But somebody asked me once actually, like, do you regret getting that? I was like, no, because it's my reminder to myself. and it matters to me. And I remind, like, I don't know, do you have any tattoos?
I have one tattoo right here. Yep.
Do you ever forget that you have it?
No.
I forget that I have tattoos oftentimes.
Well, I got mine at 37, so it was quite a different experience.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yes.
I love that you have this tattoo, because I think there's this concept in our society where people, they think they learned something about healing, and all of a sudden now they can be a coach and they can teach about it. And what I keep saying is, I'm like, no one will listen to you unless you are a full embodiment of everything you preach. And so, you know, I used to have this sign above my desk that would say, my client's success is not my responsibility. It is their responsibility.
Right.
It is my responsibility to pour as much love into this person as I can, because love heals so much, and to give them very explicit techniques and things to work on. But their success is not my responsibility. And I can't want it for them more than they want it for themselves.
That right there. Whew.
Right?
Yep. That's a hard one. That's the thing I check myself on regularly and have for years. Because there's a certain time that I'll feel it switch. And I'm like, nope, I cannot want this more than you do.
I can't want it more than you do. I can't drag you to the change. I can't tell you that the change is going to be amazing for you. I can hold a vision for you of what I believe you can be and where I believe you can go. But I'm not going to drag anyone to the water trough.
Yeah. I oftentimes find with my high performing clients that one of the things I do the most is make them pause for a moment to see what they are accomplishing, because their mind is always focused on what they didn't get done or what's next. Yep. And so instead I'm like, what if we took a minute and looked around at where you are and what you're doing, and you're not. Actually, just recently I was talking with a client, they bought a second home, so they're living in a different city, and it's been a whole transition, right, of getting used to, but her stress level is much lower at this house than it was at the other. And so we've been really dissecting that, because I find it so interesting. And then now, like a month and a half or 2 months in, now what's coming up is, well, I feel like I should be being more social. So now she's found a thing, right, to be not good enough at. And I was thinking about it even when we got off the phone a couple of days ago, and I was like, wow, okay, this is what we do. That's what that is. And so thinking about it, right, how are we going to reframe that in a conversation next week? Because that's what you're finding a reason to feel like what you're doing isn't enough, instead of allowing yourself to enjoy what you've created. And it's so difficult, but that's why we have people like us and we have people like us for us.
We have to have people like us for us. Otherwise, we're not congruent.
Exactly.
I do something very specific for clients that I'm more than happy for you to take and use. I have them create a reality document of all the things that they've gained over the past 5 years. So everything from financial to personal, because when they get in that space of wanting to do more, I'm like, let's look at your reality document. Let's see who you really are. This is your true identity. Let's figure out, are you doing something now that's within your true identity and this filter that we've created for you? Or are you adding something or creating something that's not you?
Okay.
Because that's helpful, because you might say to them, well, you have this thing that you keep doing, you keep going after more. But until they see it and they speak out loud to you, this is why I'm doing it, they can't even really hear that you're telling them this.
Truth.
So that's why I'm like, wait, pull up your document, pull up your tool, let's look at the tool.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're going to spin in that same loop pattern.
And how often is the thing that you think you're supposed to be doing or should doing is not what you actually want anyway?
It has nothing to do with you at all.
Yeah.
It's something that's been conditioned on you by either social media or other friends or some level of parenting that you think you need to do differently.
Absolutely. That's huge. I love that. That's great. One of the, I was looking at your content, and I mentioned this to you before we got on the show, about talking about the difference in when you're a woman in leadership, and how we've all learned this probably the hard way, is how to identify the difference between how to figure out how to show up in your masculine energy in the parts that count, and still be able to be intuitive and compassionate and open-hearted, and that doesn't make you weak.
It doesn't make you weak at all. And this is the thing, you know this for a fact, I know, but for most of the men that you have worked with, do you find that in general, men feel that if they're working from a heart space, or if they're coming from their heart, that it's weakness or that it's vulnerability and it's something negative? When I tell most of the high-performing men that I work with, and I'm like, listen, you're way too logical. You're way too in your brain. Nobody can connect with you. I'm like, so we have to bring you down out of your head into your heart. That's the hardest trip for men, is that 12 inches.
It was hard for me.
It was hard for me too, because guess what? We were probably hyper masculine.
Yes.
Because we're like, we have to be this way. We have to be strong. I remember I had one woman when I worked at the law firm. I worked in white collar crime at a law firm early on in my 20s. And she sat me down and she's like, Annie, you're so productive, you're so on task, you get so much done. But she's like, when you interact with people, it's like you don't see them as human beings. And I was like,
oh boy.
And it hit me so hard. So I was like, well, that's not how I feel at all inside.
Right.
But it's how I'm projecting onto everyone. So I spent a good amount of time going back to every single person that she said I had been robotic with, and apologizing and like reconnecting. And that was the first moment that I feel like, wow, this is what it's like to lead with the heart. It's about actually feeling or putting yourself into that other person's experience and then acknowledging them.
Yes.
So what I found for feminine, which is a little bit different, I guess, because all women come and they'll be like, okay, how can I be more of my feminine but still get good work done? I'm like, well, if you're in your heart and you sort of slow yourself down and you use some movement techniques, then suddenly you're more in your body.
Yeah.
If you're in masculine, you're much more in your brain. And so you become more robotic. Or you become a driver. And so I'm like, the more you can get into your body and get into your heart and have practices that do that consistently, you can act from that place and still be hyper performing.
Yeah.
But for men, I think it's that last 5 to 10%, that's that journey to the heart that really makes them magnetize more of what they want in the world.
Absolutely. Like I watched it in my fiance. He fought for a living and he was one of the toughest guys in the NHL.
Wow.
And that is truly who he is as a human. And he's a huge teddy bear and such a kind man. But even in his emotional capacity, and I say this because he's actually said it on my show, so I'm not making it up, talking about him, but his emotional capacity has changed so much, even just in the last 5 years, because he realized that in order for us to have what we both wanted, he had to.
Yes.
And previously, as you know, this isn't going to shock you, he didn't feel safe enough to do that.
Right.
And so now, in a man that used to yell in business, like I would hear him on the phone with people and I'm like, what are you doing? This is not, and like teamwork and leadership is very important to him from being in sports his whole life. Right. I was like, this is not how we lead. He has completely changed. I mean, his office manager has been with him for a really long time. And even, I think it was a couple years ago, she said to me, she's like, it's crazy how different he is.
Of a good woman.
And he'll say that, right? He's like, it's Jamie. And
well, you're so aware and you're so focused on when you say something and someone's saying it in a kind way so that they can absorb it a little bit. Thank God he has you.
And I told him, I said, I remember one time him saying, hey, what I need you to do is when you notice that I'm doing that, I need you to remind me that I need to look at it differently. And I was in the muck of a huge piece of my own healing at that point. And I stopped. He had walked out of the room and I stopped and I was like, wait a minute, no. And I walked out, I was like, babe, I coach people for a living and I'm constantly checking my own reactions and thoughts right now. I cannot take responsibility for you deciding to behave differently. And he was like, oh, wow. Okay, you're right.
It's not my responsibility. The success of the person is not my responsibility.
Huge moment. And when I did that, and why I tell that story is because then what happened is he took responsibility for it and held himself accountable to that standard, and it's never changed. He's holds himself to it. He talks about his feelings. Yeah.
Because no one is broken. Like, this is the thing when people come to me like, Annie, how broken am I? I'm like, you're not broken at all. There's nothing about any person in this world that is broken.
Yeah.
There really, truly isn't. All it is a lack of awareness and a lack of commitment to changing your own behavior.
Truth, yes. And it's pieces of not knowing and not being willing to look at it. I think that when you say like not broken, I think the thing people don't realize is that there's a book actually that around IFS called No Bad Parts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so one of the things I learned while learning the feminine movement and what I needed to do to move energy out of my body every day, which actually right before we sat down, I was like, I probably should like go outside and jump around or something. And look, it ended up moving and I was okay. But learning that, my mentor that I've had is a practicing witch yoga teacher, embodiment coach, because she was the only person I could find that could get me to realize how to listen to my body.
Right.
And so the things that I've learned, it's like, it's wild, but I never would have even ever thought of it. Instead, I just felt like I was going to burst all the time.
Yep. Well, it's because we were trying to control so much, hold on so much and manage so much. I mean, I don't even know, thinking back to like, do you think back, and because I have 2 little boys, I used to think back, I'm like, I was running 3 businesses. My husband was in chronic, horrific pain all the time. My little kids wouldn't even sit on his lap because they were afraid of him. We were working around the clock. I'm like, we were both so exhausted all the time. I was just thinking about all these young moms that are out there, I'm like, we have to figure out a better way to do this.
Yeah.
And I think having younger women identify very quickly with how do I lead in a feminine way and value that so that it's not something that's considered a weakness.
Yeah.
And also the other big thing I've noticed is that as women in general, and a lot of men, we don't have calm nervous systems because our brain chemistry is so off. And so one of the things I've been really big into recently, because I'm a geek about neuroscience and all those things, is I'm like, I need to do everything in my power to calm everyone's brains around me so that as we do this work, they can go even deeper. Because as you know, right, if you're in a neural pathway, you're stuck in that pathway until you have a boost to your neurochemistry that tells you, oh, wait, I can create this extra pathway off the side here that's actually better for me. And then you need to put all your focus on that new neural pathway. But most of us can't meditate, can't sit still, can't, get out of our own loops in our mind at night. So we're not sleeping well, but it's all because of a lack of neurochemistry, which goes back to the microbiome. And so you're hearing more about the microbiome now, which I think is great,
Agreed.
but we're not learning as much as we could, I don't.
No, and I didn't understand. So I'm going to have to put you in touch with my coach because you guys could speak on this together forever. She taught me more intensely the science behind, like, I've always been able to understand the energy part, like the spiritual part, because I could feel it, but to learn the science and how my nervous system would go, ooh, and then I had to either go all the way through it and I had to be able to bring myself to the other side. And one of the exercises we did in soma work was and I'm not going to do it right now because I want to activate myself, but if I shake my hands, like at my wrists like this, it is highly activating for me. And it's like my body is terrified. And if I do it with my eyes closed, then we have a real big problem. There's a lot of other movements that I'm able to do now that I never could have before. But learning that, what it does is I don't have to understand exactly why my body is having the moment. I can feel the moment. So talk about power. So the reason I share that is because any women listening right now, leading from a place of integrity and love, and that doesn't mean you're going to let people walk all over you.
Gosh, no.
It's actually the opposite. If you truly care about someone's development and their ability to be better at their job or whatever it is, you're going to hold them accountable. That's love.
That is love.
And it's so powerful because most people, the majority, I don't know if it happened to you, but the majority of my men are terrible managers, my male clients. And they're so scared to manage because they think everyone's going to think they're mean.
Well, that's also because there's a deficit in the world of people's ability to self-regulate and people's ability to emotionally manage, right? And so the only way they've learned how to emotionally manage is I have to jump in, I have to take control, or I have to fix it. And I just wish more men would look at it and say, and women too, look at it and say, how can I invite everybody on my team into problem solving? Because it's not my job to solve the problem. It's my job to invite everybody into problem solving, give everybody a voice, let everybody own the solution, and then take action from there. And I think that's why as women, we get overwhelmed sometimes because we think we have to take all the action, but no, that's being a follower. Being a follower is taking the action.
Yeah,
A leader is invoking the action. Being a manager is holding that desired end state, giving yourself a safety net, and then funding the resources.
Huge.
So you can see how if we just think about these things a little bit differently, everything can shift. Even in relationships, like I use that lead manager follower piece with couples that are planning vacations together. So I'm like, listen, you're going to plan a vacation. Someone's got to be the lead follower. One person's got to be the manager. Who in the family wants to do these two things?
Otherwise, you're going to fight about everything.
You're going to get on this vacation. You're going to be like, I'm done. I don't want to do this vacation. And you're going to end the vacation and be like, what did we even do? I didn't even get half of this stuff done I wanted to get done. I don't feel that connected to you. We didn't have enough sex, whatever it might be.
Yep.
But we're missing these key things that you can apply in business and apply in your personal relationship. Because guess what, everyone? Any pattern that's happening in your personal life is also happening in your business life and is limiting all the money that you make.
There it is. Absolutely. I love it. We were talking yesterday. I was talking with somebody about validation and how for so many years, so I didn't come looking to take in this position at Punchline. It was not on, I was deep in like stillness and crocheting because it was helping me calm my nervous system and figuring out that I was allowed to do that. And I was still making money in my coaching business because the clients I have are typically very long term and none of them stress me out. at all.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it is. To get to that spot, I'm like, wow.
I love it.
It's like magic.
I'm the same. It's so amazing. I just love everybody.
And so to have that, you know, to say, okay, I'm allowed to do this, and this is a way I can exist too. And then it just kind of presented itself. And what I think is beautiful, though, is that in that, it's given me a real life that I didn't necessarily have to go find, a real life opportunity to take everything I had been learning for those 2 years of calming down and put it into practice in real time with other humans.
I love it.
And that's where, like, when we talk about Sam, who I talk about all the time, being such a calm strength, he's such a great person for me to be around, because where do you go find a 26-year-old man that acts that way? You don't.
No,
and I'm like, okay, this is definitely a divine thing, because he teaches me things all the time that he doesn't even realize just by the way he exists, right? And so
thank you, Sam.
Right, we love Sam. And so those pieces, I noticed that probably to where I've always been very able to see who's doing what, why, and all of those parts. But what this particular situation has allowed me to do is to implement those things the way I know I need to, and to lead in a way that I really want to lead, and figure things out. So but the reason I'm sharing that is because it's been this embodied practice. There are moments that I definitely find myself going, okay, that's a little more masculine than I need to be, or we're like, I need to be that way. And it's still like it always will be a juggle, but to be able to have known that that's possible is huge.
Also, I think what you said was so relevant when you said, I want to lead the way I want to lead. Because I think for a lot of people out there, they lead their teams the way they want to be led.
Yeah.
But they don't allow the team to show them what they need in leadership.
Yeah.
So I think the mere fact that you're leading the way you want to lead, and you have this complete congruence and embodiment, that's the way we all should be leading if we're going to lead. So thank you for being that, that example for the people that you work with. It's so important.
I'm trying, for sure. And it feels wildly different. I've been in a lot of toxic business relationships and lots of things. And so what's cool, though, is because I know that, I notice it when it starts to happen. I'm like, ooh, that feels familiar.
That doesn't feel like me.
Yeah, I'm like,
not like my new version.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, what do we need to discuss or shift or whatever? Because I don't want to do that again. We're not doing that again. I actually said my old company's name completely on accident while talking to Tony, and it was funny. We both were like, oh boy, that's
something's coming up.
Right. I'm like, that's happening. A really bad sign. We need to deal with whatever that is. It was really interesting. And it's been like 12 years or something since I've worked there. So I was like, oh, okay, that's a telling moment. So I sat down by myself for a while and sat with that, but learning to notice those things. And that's what I'd like to hear you say this kind of in your own terms. I think a lot of people don't realize that because life is complex and we're always growing and changing, that this is an ongoing journey that we all do.
It is the best journey.
It doesn't end.
And nobody has the same journey.
True.
So when people come to me and they're like, well, I saw this on social media. I'm not at this top 1%. I'm not doing this. I'm just like, you got to let go of everybody else's journey.
True.
This is only your journey. Nobody else cares. Nobody cares about your journey. So as long as you are in your true identity and focused on what your journey is and constantly evolving, like, you're not making mistakes, you're learning or you're growing. You're learning or you're growing. That's it. And I just wish that people would stop putting so much burden on themselves. Even in their language, you hear people say but all the time instead of and. You hear people say have to do this instead of I get to or I'm blessed to. And it's such a difference just to look at your language every day. But I feel like that's so overused and oversaid, but people still aren't doing it.
It matters. It matters. When I learned the difference and I really let myself feel the difference between and but,
huge.
It was a game. I recorded a whole episode about it.
Oh, what about like I have to versus I want to versus where I get to versus I'm blessed to. And you're like, wow, my life took on a whole different meaning now.
Absolutely.
A whole different experience.
Teaching my clients, especially my female clients, honestly, they do. Female clients that are working in their space, or females in general, right, that are working in that masculine space, it does create dynamic issues often in your romantic relationships.
100% it does.
Because in your husband, if he's not a highly masculine man, or even when he is, like, there's this weird, nobody knows who they are.
There's no polarity.
Moment. Right. It's just this awkward thing. And so I try to explain to them the difference between and but, and how important it will shift the relationship, just that change. If you change that in the way you communicate with people, it does for yourself too, but because you're not just constantly like taking all of the worth out of the thing you said before the but.
Right.
But when I see people change it in the way they speak to their partners, especially, I'm like,
so beautiful.
There it is.
The other thing I love watching with partners is so you know the dynamic that happens, right? The woman becomes more masculine, the men then like become more shut down, they shrink back a little bit. I was teaching and working with a client the other day, and she's like, in the military, she's like this big powerhouse woman, just amazing. And she's like, you want me to do what? And I'm like, yeah, I want you to touch him when you talk to him. Because men, they can hear you so much better when you touch them, because most men have physical touch as their main love language, even though they might not be aware of it. And so I'm like, if you slow down your language, if you get a little bit quieter in what you say, if you touch them and you acknowledge them first before you say anything, a man lights up.
And they're going to listen, actually.
I'm like, and as women, we need to know, like, what is going to light our man up? And then, like, when you have an argument, I remember the first time I did this with the gentleman I was dating. We had a little bit of an argument, and I went and I sat on his lap and I held his face. I'm like, I love you so much. You're such an amazing man. I'm like, I need your help with something. And he was like, I've never been in a fight and had this kind of interaction before. He's like, what's happening? And I'm like, and then we're going to have sex. And it's going to be awesome. And he's like, I love this. I don't know what's happening. I love it.
I thought we were fighting.
I thought we were fighting. Are we fighting? And I'm like, no, we're not fighting. But I had never had a man who could like reciprocate in that and stay in that calm, loving place, So we just have such an incredible ability as women, I think, to change how people feel, to change how they hear, to change how receptive they are.
Yeah.
But it requires us to be in our feminine, not to be in our masculine, because the feminine energy is what moves people. So I'm always reminding myself, I'm like, and I'm much more feminine now than I've ever been, which I think is very helpful.
Yeah, it is helpful.
And it's a lot less stress. It's a lot more ease, right?
I feel like I have the ability to touch the solutions.
Yes.
And the answers to things much better than I ever used to.
We don't have to come up with all the solutions on our own. It's basically like, tell me what you think.
Or we see that path where we wouldn't have even saw the opportunity, where I'm like, oh, why don't I ask this person? Like, well, what do you need? Or what do you think? Instead, I wouldn't have even thought that, because it was so rigid. Is really the word I used a lot.
Well, I think as women who go into their masculine, we become much more rigid, much more robotic, and it's so not us at all.
Yeah, no wonder that we're like internal battling.
Or we have, not diseases, but we do have, health issues that come up or immune issues that come up.
Absolutely.
Right? Because we're rejecting that part of ourselves that is really the true essence of who we are.
Oh, yeah. I know that definitely fed the monster of chronic illness. And then, of course, my nervous system being all out of whack and all of that. It was like a perfect, fun little storm that we've identified. And it's a journey, and I'm grateful to be where I'm at with it. It definitely created a lot of successes for me, that even though I like kind of was punished along the way, but getting to the spot of, if I would have never recognized or had found someone, and it was actually a very, like, just like you said, it was a very fate thing that I even found Jessie that knew these things to teach me them. And she's been with me for a long time now because of that. And we're not even close to being done.
That's why I tell everyone, I'm like, everyone needs a coach for like a couple of years at least, because you're never going to be done. It's the journey of your life. We're all working our way back to our complete truth and our complete essence. That's why we're here.
I love it. That's beautiful. So one thing I like to ask everybody who comes on, because I think oftentimes I tend to also gravitate towards people who do have large accomplishments or like get a lot handled in a day or whatever it is. And so something I like to focus on, because it's that thing on the internet where everyone's like, well, that's good for her.
Right.
But that would never work for me, or my life couldn't be that way. And so being present is a huge piece of everything we've talked about. You can't know any of these things or notice them if you're not. True. So what are a couple things that you use personally that keep you in the moment?
Well, I find that a lot of it is making sure that I do the work before I get into the moment to make sure I'm really here. So I have like a very specific transition plan. You know how it is for most of us as entrepreneurs, like we leave our office and then we walk into the home environment. Some people drive to the home environment, but if we don't figure out our transition space and how to manage that, so what I do if I'm trying to be really present is I go back to my favorite memory with my boys or my favorite memory with somebody that I love, and I'll sit and feel the entire feeling in my entire body for a good 5 minutes. And then I'll decide, okay, this is the identity that is me that I'm moving into now. And so I use that. And sometimes, I feel the feeling and then I'll play some music that really resonates for me and I'll get up and move. So before I leave the house or before I leave that door, that office to go interact with anybody that I love, I have to do that reset planning. Otherwise, I'm just rolling in the same loop pattern that I was just in all day long into my family environment. And they know I'm not present. They can feel the energy of that. And that's not fair to them and it's not fair to me. So I do a lot of that work where it's like, it's first you're feeling the feeling of the best memory that you have with that person. You're going right from that into I'm going to listen to the music. And then from the music, I'm going to move my body. I'm going to reset on this is my identity and where I'm authentically going to be. And I use the connection formula that we developed, which is authenticity plus vulnerability plus trust to make sure I'm acting in a connecting way at all times. And then I walk out into the world like that. It's maybe an 8-minute process, right?
Wow.
But very helpful.
Well, yeah. And that's different than anything I've ever heard someone say. So that's huge. Like, I love that when I'm like, wow, that's unique.
I have a lot of fun things like that.
I love that.
Because you hear all these things and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work for me.
Right.
What else could work?
100%.
It's like when people say, every day I've got my list of all these things I'm going to write down. I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. Because now we're telling your subconscious you have this long list of all these things. Your subconscious can't focus on it. So I always have people get a piece of paper out and we fold it into 3 columns. The first column, 2 things that if you got those 2 things done today, it would change your life. Next column, family. So the first column is personal. Second column is family or relationship if you're in a relationship. And the third is business.
Okay.
So if I have 2 things, say my thing is drink 10 glasses of water and get a workout in. I know if I do those 2 things today, my life is great.
Yeah.
Second thing, snuggling with my kids, reading them a book before bedtime with funny voices. I know if I do those 2 things, I'm going to feel really good at the end of the day. And then in business, I always have it as reach out to 10 people and tell them why they're important or helpful in your life. And then I always have one other thing that moves the business forward. And I look at them like, if these 6 things get done, it was a successful day. I'm satisfied by my day. Everything is good. But that programs the filter of the subconscious to get you to do those things first. So from my perspective, I had read all these books on Miracle Morning and all these different things you can do.
Yeah.
None of it worked for me, but this did.
Gotcha.
And now I'll tell people about it and they're like, well, you're changing my filter. Like, that's the point.
Right.
Because we don't want the old filter running things.
Yes.
Because it doesn't give you what you want.
Right.
So it's a satisfaction filter. That's what we try to do more of.
I love that. That's really helpful because that's something I remember when I first started coaching, people would tell me, you need to pick a very specific way you help people. And I'm like, that's not realistic.
It's not realistic.
And I told everybody, you'd make so much more money. I'm like, yeah, maybe. But I'd feel like crap telling everyone this is the one way to plan your life. And it's like, no. I have 18 different planners in my house that I've tried. Every one of them. I've tried every project management system, all these different things because I need to know what options I can give to people.
To be like, hey, this is how your brain works. This is what will work for you. Maybe try it.
Yeah. And give it a week, give it a 2. Yeah. I always tell people at the end of the week, you reflect on what happened and what worked and what didn't. And we always adjust accordingly.
Always.
Because some weeks.
You're always adjusting.
100%. Here's a great example for people. Some weeks I'll probably go months. I drink really well and I'll drink a ton of water out of a cup like this. And then I'll notice that I start slacking. And I know in my mind that I need to switch to my bottle that has the open mouth for some reason. And then for a while,
your body needs more.
And then so I'll go through a process where I'll go really well with that and drink all my water. And then I'll find where I'm kind of ignoring it and I'll switch back to this bottle. I don't need to know why. It doesn't matter. It's just my deal.
We don't need to judge it either. We just have to be like, ooh, my body wants this now. This is great.
Right.
Passion and love, right? It's when we go into that, and I think men do this sometimes more than women. They go into this like, I should be doing it differently. I should be doing it differently. I'm always like, you're shitting all over yourself. We should stop doing that, right? We have to do this a little differently. How can we add more compassion and grace for ourselves? Because I think for men, they really hold themselves to a level that's not healthy sometimes.
Agreed.
And so, I don't know. I just think that you're doing the right things by just listening to the body sometimes. Because the body will tell you what it needs.
Yeah. I do that with my male clients a lot. I feel like one of the things that we try to get out of, but is a consistent, is that, especially when things are hard for them, I'm the only person they talk to about it.
True. Yep.
And so it's a beautiful gift to know that I'm able to be that person for them and to be able to teach them, well, you know how you told me this? You could approach it this way with your daughter or with your brother or with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever. And it would probably open a really cool communication with you.
And connection. That's much
And
deeper.
They're like, oh. And then I go, maybe they won't, I'm thinking, and then you won't feel as alone.
Right.
And so they don't always take me up on it, right? But they do more often as we go along. And I see those relationships change, which is really cool.
That's the best part of everything.
Yeah.
Ripple effect.
Exactly. Ripple effect. Have you ever read any of the teachings of Alison Armstrong?
Yes.
Okay, right. She's amazing. So the transition period of the Keys to the Kingdom was a game changer for me. And because I watched my father do this every single day home from work. And I never realized it until that moment. I could tell you to this day, everything he did as soon as he got home from work every single day, his transition. And the cool thing is that my mom, she didn't know she was doing it, but she let him have that space every day.
Every day.
My mom and dad didn't fight much.
My mom did too. My mom and dad didn't fight either. My dad would always come back. He would always take a shower. He would have 30 minutes by himself, and then he would re-engage with the family. But in this day and age, you don't see women giving men that time. You don't see men asking for that time. You don't see men planning that time.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a full-on lack of intention in the dynamic, because she's like, get home now so you can take all this over, or you can do more for me. And it's just, I think that's sort of the breakdown. Like, there's a lack of intentionality in how we plan. Like, I always tell couples, I'm like, you got to have a plan, and you got to start that on Sunday afternoon, and you plan for the week together. What's one thing that each of you needs to be happy this week? What's one thing you do for yourself as a couple? What's one thing you do as a family unit? Excuse me. And then what's one thing that you talk about that you're planning for together that's either a dream or a fantasy?
Yeah.
Because I think that when we get out of imagination, we get out of play as adults, we really forget like some of those beautiful parts of our connection. So I'm like, if you go on a date with your spouse, you're talking about fantasy, which, is like, sexual fantasy stuff. You're talking about future dreams of what you want to create together, or you're talking about future travel. That's it. We're not talking about all the stuff, all the details. That's on the detailed planning session you do on Sunday afternoons, right? Because we have to make these moments with our significant other special and connecting and like imagination building. Because if we don't, we don't have that level of intimacy that we want.
Well, and the world doesn't make space for it if we don't. And
that's true.
It is one of those pieces that I find the transition period, I'm like, it's a biology thing. It's literally the way their brain is designed. So if we can just allow that 20 minutes.
Allow it.
My dad would come home, and he always packed he worked nights. Okay. So he had a specific lunchbox that had all his things in it. So he basically takes it apart, cleans all the things, puts it in the dishwasher. And then he would do the same thing when he got up in the morning before he left. He'd put it all, but nobody disrupted him. Everybody let him do his thing because it let him go. My dad is a very quiet, calm man. And he was able to stay that way.
It's his routines.
Absolutely. And so when I read that book, I was going, oh my gosh. And I don't give that book recommendation just to anybody, because I feel like if your head's not in the right place, you're going to take it the wrong way.
That's how I feel about the David Data book, Way the Superior Man, right? Because I tell women, I'm like, you need to read this book.
I have it.
Changes your understanding of how the male mind works. It's not that I'm saying everything in the book is perfect or accurate.
Correct.
But if you don't understand how the man is thinking, how can you show up?
And how it's different than the way you think.
Different.
That's really the only key of those books. And I love how Keys of the Kingdom is written like a story. So it's not saying do this for men and don't do that. It's like, no.
Showing you what's possible.
Absolutely. It opens your mind. So I love that as you were talking, I'm going, very Alison Armstrong feels to this conversation. I love her.
I've actually never read any of her stuff, but I have met people that know her very well that have shared with me parts of how she does things, because I never wanted to like read some of her stuff and be like, oh God, this is so good. And now, you'd have to go get coaching or make sure you're certified with her program. So I was always like, God, I love what she's doing. I just want to like shout out to her. Thank you for everything she's done.
When I was single, I actually downloaded one of her. She had recorded a webinar or a seminar she was at and put it as an audiobook about dating and how you approach dating and driving in the car together, and how when a man is driving, it is the worst time to bring something up to him, because his mind is, I got to get her there. I got to get her there safe. We got to be there on time. Where am I going? Where am I turning? Who's doing what?
Plus you're trapped. You're literally trapped in a vehicle with energy that doesn't move at all, even though you're moving.
And I used to do this. I'd think, oh, what a perfect time for me to talk to you.
He can't move. He has to be familiar. And now when I tell couples, I'm like, no deep conversations happen in a car. If you're going to have a deep conversation or an intense conversation, drive over to the side of the road, you get out. So you're in nature. You're in all that air. You're in all that energy.
You're not locked in.
Not locked in. Because can you imagine? Like,
as soon as
most of the conflict happens in a vehicle.
As soon as I knew that, I was like, oh boy, this makes perfect sense. Of course.
You got to change this up now.
Or like the planning of the date night situation and how much pressure it makes somebody feel, and just the difference. So when you can learn more about other humans is really my whole gig.
Other humans.
Yeah. Yes. That's what I like. So is there anything else that you think from this conversation that you'd like to leave us with?
I think the only thing that I want to just reiterate one more time is the importance of, if you're going to do coaching, if you can do coaching, and you know this just as everybody else, right? There's the intellectual side you have to focus on, the emotional side, the somatic side in the body. You have to focus, though, in addition, on the neurochemistry. That is the biggest, I think, shift that I've seen over the last 7 years. Because Because I used to do just all the work with all the tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you can't move someone, you can't change their behavior as quickly, and people get a little bit, frustrated or sad that they're not seeing the change that they want. And so I think this neurochemical piece is the least understood and the not as well applied. But if you can add in that neurochemical piece to boost the neurochemistry, I think you have really sustainable change that happens so much faster.
Yeah.
So I just want people to, be willing to be open to that conversation.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't know how to find out more about it.
That's true. Well, I would tell you that your neurochemistry is linked to your microbiome. Okay. And so you want to be able to do whatever you can to enhance the microbiome. Now, a lot of what's out there these days, I think, is based on dead cow bacteria, not actually live cultures. But I found a company about 7 years ago, and they are really game-changing in the space. I don't get paid to tell anybody about this, but I think that the coolest thing about them is when my clients get on their product line, their whole system calms.
Oh.
They get out of fight or flight. And as you know, every entrepreneur is in fight or flight until they resolve that and get that out of their body. And most of us don't ever resolve it unless they know of something like this. And so the key, if you're an entrepreneur who's listening, really focus on calming your nervous system, getting yourself out of fight or flight, because the potential in businesses that you see or the things you can invest in, it all dramatically changes when you're not trying to survive.
Yeah.
And we all become entrepreneurs because we're trying to survive.
Right?
Yeah. But then we put ourselves into those old cycles again. So I just want to say that as a resource for anybody who listens, if they want to go after that and they really want to dial in their nervous system, I would love to help. So I'll make sure you have some of that information.
Yep. And we can put all your information, how they can find you below, because I know you have courses, you have people can work with you in lots of different ways, it looked like.
Yep. Private coaching, retreats I have
Fun.
intensives where people come out and do one-on-one work. And now we're doing a lot more on the private retreats for women, just because I feel like we all need that community around us.
Absolutely.
To get to the next level.
That connection helps the healing process a lot.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
For being
I
here
love
too.
this conversation.
I'm like, you and I are going to be friends, I feel like, for a long time.
Corey did tell me that. He was like, I think you guys are perfect for each other. I was
We
like,
really
okay.
are. We really
Yeah,
are.
I
It's the
love
beginning of
it.
a beautiful friendship.
Yes. And here you guys got to watch it
That's right.
come to life.
The first experience.
Yes. Well, thank you guys for listening. As always, if you like this episode, please be sure to give it a thumbs up or like, share, comment, wherever you are. If there's someone that you know that you think could benefit from this conversation, please share this over to them. One of the best things, again, the ripple effect we talked about, this is how we do that. So anytime you can share content with people that you think will lift them up or open their minds, we're just helping the collective overall. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Operation B, the podcast. To support this message and to support the show, please make sure that you like, follow, and share the podcast wherever you enjoy listening. And be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.